of handmade business can be tough when trying to monetize what you love. We've got truth bombs and motivation to help you find your way through. Passion to profit, let's start today, 'cause the world needs what you create. Tune in right now, it's your shot to learn how to be a handmade boss.
If you have ADHD or ADHD traits, tendencies, or you have an inkling that you might have it but you haven't been officially diagnosed yet, and you think that you can't have a successful business because of it, think again. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly why the ADHD crowd is actually 60 to 80% more likely to think entrepreneurially and how to leverage the gifts that you do have and identify what ADHD sabotages you have as well. Hi everyone, if you are new around here, my name is Steph and I help handmade business owners start, run and scale their handmade business to go from expensive hobby to 6 figures and beyond on Etsy, but also on your own website as well. I help over 80,000 business owners every single week with my free advice. I also have a best-selling book, a Facebook group, an Instagram channel where things are popping off. So if you want to find me somewhere other than YouTube, then head to these places now. All right, so before I get into any of this, it's really important to mention that I am not an ADHD or mental health expert. I am someone who is neurodiverse, a little bit like what you might be, and someone who has had their fair share of brain work to do to get to where I am today. So all I'm going to be doing is sharing with you my experience. All right, so let's talk about ADHD symptoms, because you might have kind of had an inkling for a little while that something is not quite right. And you seem to see other people being able to not procrastinate, focus on work, and really kind of hone in on doing the things they know that they, a little bit boring, but they get on and do it anyway. And you're finding it really difficult to stick to one thing. And you're starting to hear ADHD being thrown around a little bit more. And you start to identify with a few things that you feel kind of constitutes having it. So let's just talk through it very, very briefly, some of the symptoms. So these are things like finding it really hard to sustain attention in work, activities. You even find it hard to just sit and watch like a 2-3 hour movie. Frequent careless mistakes in schoolwork, uni work, college work, or anything else that you do. Trouble organizing yourself and your time. You're easily distracted by things constantly needing your attention. You forget on a daily basis. So you're someone who will misplace their wallet, their keys, and you're like, I know I just had this in my hand and I cannot figure out where it's gone. Or you find it really hard to keep to appointments or do chores or things like that because you consider yourself forgetful. When you're sat still, you fidget or you're tapping your hands and feet and you just feel like you need to keep moving. You find it really hard to stay sat down and keep still in situations where it's kind of expected that you do so. Excessive talking and difficulty in waiting your turn to talk, and you find yourself interrupting people and people getting a bit about it. Interrupting others during conversations, playing games, anything where you're interacting with someone else. And people might call you reckless at times and they'll get frustrated because you can be quite impulsive, but also you can be quite kind of scattered too. Because of all of these things, people often who have ADHD or ADHD tendencies and traits, and they often think that business success is reserved for those who do not have this disorder. But actually, when I was doing my research, Forbes calls ADHD an entrepreneur's superpower. So, if Forbes are saying that, and honestly, when I was doing research, like I said for this, I actually realized that a lot of successful entrepreneurs have ADHD. The trick here is that you have to know what your special gifts are and what your sabotages are. Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Walt Disney, Arianna Huffington, Dave Nealman, what do these people have in common? They all have ADHD. And like I've said, the key thing that they did was to make sure that they identified what their weaknesses were and what their strengths were. This means that you will not be able to do everything within your business, and you will be beating yourself up, because I myself do this a lot where I'm finding it really difficult to sit still. Like, for example, when I'm in a meeting, I have a bunch of these fidget toys that I'm like this with. Otherwise, I'll be picking my fingers. I'll be like doing this with my nails. I'll just be genuinely annoying, and I can see the other person is a bit like, okay, she's not really interested in what I'm saying. And that's not the case. It's just my brain is like thinking about, what should I have for dinner? And why is my desk untidy? And what this person is saying is really, really good. What about doing this, and this? And what about like making this thing and creating this? Like, it can be really hard sometimes. And I'll be beating myself up every time something goes wrong or your attention gets pulled into a different direction. So how do we figure out what our ADHD superpowers are? Because if you have ADHD, or you suspect that you do, you have superpowers. Right, listen to these statements and I want you to see if any of them resonate for you. Because you ping pong lots of thoughts and solutions around in your head, you find solutions to problems very, very quickly. And you can often see 3, 4, 5 different ways to get over this roadblock before anyone else has even come up with one. You are not just a creative thinker and an out-the-box thinker. You take the box, you turn it white, and you turn it into a freaking steamboat, right? Creativity lights you up and it recharges your batteries, which for me, this is really interesting because of the line of work that I'm obviously doing, helping handmade business owners. When I did research for this, it really kind of illuminated stuff to me that I was like, yeah, you know what? This makes perfect sense. You are super compassionate because you know what it's like to be a little bit different and you vibe with that. You have a real humdinger of a sense of humor because, hey, if you can't laugh at yourself. Once you lock in, and I call it lock in because it feels like you're in the flow, time is being lost. But when you lock into a task that really interests you and motivates you, you go all out to achieve what you have to. And like I said, time just ticks by and you don't even notice. Because you are constantly looking all around you, you notice details, right? And not only do you observe the tiny details, but you remember them too. You can, nay, need to multitask and you do it well. And also you are energetic AF. So after hearing all of those, which ones are your superpowers? Now, there might be some that are not listed on that list that you kind of think, I'm a mixture of these two or those two. That's fine. I really want you to write these down. And the next thing I want you to do is to take a personality test. I actually use 16personalities.com. It's like the 16personalities.com. If you Google it, you will find it. But I found that has been a really good test to kind of see how you interact with others, in relationships, in the workplace, as a boss, and it really highlights what your strengths are. And when combined with your ADHD superpowers, you build a really nice picture as to what you can do really well and what maybe you need to stop beating yourself up about not being able to do so well. It will build a picture as to how you can scale your business without it feeling like nails on a chalkboard, because frameworks and strategies and all those kinds of things, they interest you, you understand them, but actually implementing them is a whole different kettle of fish. And I feel like once you find out what your superpowers are, once you've taken a personality test, then you are like, okay, now I have a clearer picture as to how I can implement all of these strategies and frameworks and all of the good stuff in my business. So the next and third thing that I want you to do. So number one, we have gone over what your superpowers might be. Number two, you've taken a personality test to kind of combine those two. And number three, here's a few questions that I want you to kind of internally answer or journal it out, okay? Number one is to analyze and think about what things come super easy to you. So for an example, for me, I love to go live. I love to talk. I go live every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, to answer questions or to teach things or to do something. But on the other hand, I find it hard to keep my hands still, as you can probably tell, because I need to express fully with my mind and my body and my soul and my voice what I'm talking about. And I need to be really in it and locked in order for me to not procrastinate it and float off and do something else. Number 2 is I want you to notice the positive things that you love about yourself and that you feel you are good at. I want you to write those down too. And the third part of this is in answer to those questions, which is, again, just to recap, analyzing what things come easy to you and notice the positive things you love about yourself and that you feel that you're good at. Write these things down, but I want you to put them somewhere where whenever you're beating yourself up for your amazing neurodiverse self and you're like, I can't do this, like my brain's just not wired in this way, I want you to read these things because these things set you apart. These things make you different. These things, when you are utilizing them in the right way and cutting yourself a damn break, these things are amazing for you and your success moving forward. As you can probably tell by now, you need a tailored game plan to run your business. And it's part of the reason why we keep things very visual, we keep things very simple, we keep things very anti-bells and whistles, mainly because I know what it's like to have a lot of distractions. And to be honest with you, you don't need a bunch of fancy things. All you need is a singular framework that's going to work for you, implemented for you and your brain in the correct way. So by now, you might be kind of thinking, yeah, this is painting a real picture as to why normal business strategies and tips and tricks and hints are not working for me. You find yourself probably getting annoyed and frustrated at yourself and probably others. And maybe you start thinking, I can't do this. Maybe I'm not built to have a business. Maybe just all my stuff sucks and I can't take people judging me. Identifying ADHD-friendly business strategies that will work with your neurodiverse brain is essential, as you can tell. And rest assured, like I am in the same boat as you. So when I'm creating things, I really have different ways that people learn in my mind because I myself have been there before where I'm in school, I'm in college, and I just cannot for the life of me stop thinking about doing other things and drawing and writing stories, all when I'm supposed to be concentrating on the damn thing. Or you've probably wasted money on like downloadable things, courses, or some other business bits and bobs, let's call it, where they just kind of sit in your inbox because you know they are there. You know that what they are teaching works, but it's not going to work for you, right? And my inbox used to be full of these. For instance, most business mentors, coaches will tell you to keep distractions away, like turn off your phone, don't have fidget toys, don't have things that can distract you, don't have drinks, don't have bottles, don't have lip balm that you can fiddle with. But you know, and I know that if someone plopped you in an empty room, you'd still get distracted. So it's kind of neither here nor there. Or they'll tell you, as long as you follow this formula, you'll be successful. But the formula is nothing short of using icky marketing sales techniques that your compassionate self feels weird about. Now let's talk about the can't help it. Okay, so when I was younger, I liked planning my days. And I'm talking about when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Like I loved having an agenda. I still do. But 50% of the time, I would have a case of the can't help it. So I am a weird one where I have ADHD traits and tendencies and all that sort of neurodiverseness going on. But I was obsessed and still am with planning and writing things down and making sure things are arranged. And I think it's a way for, I suppose, like the type A version of myself that exists somewhere in my universe, right? To be able to feel okay and all of my tasks are out of my brain. Because if I don't have a list or I do not have the things taken out of my mind, the thoughts themselves will distract me. It's a really weird catch-22 where you have all these thoughts to get things done so that you are productive, but the thoughts themselves distract you, right? And then you end up going down this trail of thought, which is just weird and makes no sense. But talking about the can't help it, it's a term that my dad coined quite early on, right? And this is where you know you should do something, but you can't. You don't feel like it. Your brain's like, no. Then you try again, but you're drawing a blank. Then you switch to a different tab. Then you pick your phone up to check something. And then 35 minutes later, you've learned all about the different kinds of bees or cats, but you are no closer to your actual task that you are wanting to do. This is called the can't help it. And if I was describing it to someone who's never felt it, it feels like an angry, angsty boredom, but it's a storm inside your head. It's, I know I should be doing this thing, but I can't get focused on it. And every time I try to sit down to do this thing, which I know, obviously running businesses, this is important, but this is a roadblock that we continuously come up against. So here's my tips for avoiding the can't help it's. Number one, change up your location. I have my office, which, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, for focused work. This is where I am locked in. I still have things, like I said, like fidget toys. I still have things that I can pick up and kind of, I guess, interact both sides of my brain, because a lot of my work is screen based and I'll be like typing or doing something, but then I'll switch it up and I'll send voice notes. Then I'll switch it up and I'll do videos and live. So for me, it's really about having a location for each thing. So like I said, I've got my office for like locked in stuff. I've got my couch, as you can see behind me, for a chill working vibe. And that actually pulls out into a sofa bed. So if I'm feeling like I want to work, but I also want to chill the F down and relax my nervous system, then that is where I go for that. And my local coffee shop is where I go when there are decisions to be made, because I am the world's worst at times, especially when it comes towards the end of the year and decisions have to be made for the following year. I'm avoiding it and I'm getting distracted and I'm procrastinating. But when you're in a coffee shop, it's like you have no choice, because you can't just wander around and go and grab yourself a snack. You're locked in, you're sitting your bum there. Number two is make the experience romantic, right? So if I need to lock in, what I'll do is I will put on some classical music, which studies have shown to really help you to concentrate, especially if you have a neurodiverse brain, or some wave music or something that has no lyrics. Because I find if something has lyrics, I'm concentrating on learning the lyrics and singing along. It doesn't really work. But something where you can hear something and it's interacting with that part of your brain, but not something that's going to distract you. Also, what about grabbing some tea, lighting a candle? Like, make the whole experience a lot nicer than sitting at a rubbish desk with, nothing on there and just trying to force yourself to be like the average Joe brain, because you and I are not. And a third thing is, if it's not going to happen, do something else. If you are not feeling like you want to write a blog post, create some visual social media content as well. I find that a lot of the time, if I am having the can't help it with a particular task, that means that my brain wants to do something but the opposite. So yeah, if you are struggling with doing something, what's the opposite thing that you can do that your brain wants to do, but that is still going to get you moving? So let's talk about staying organized when you have ADHD. So like I said, I'm a bit of a weird one, because I nerd out on color coding and organizing and all this kind of stuff, whereas my ADHD tendencies and traits are like, okay, we're not doing that today, or what about this shiny thing over here, or Steph, don't do this, why don't we create this thing instead? And what has this resulted in for me? Well, it's some kind of super organized, shiny object chaser with a big heart and an inability to say no to things. So now I actually try my best to rank things and only keep things in my to-do list that are important and or urgent or not urgent. So let's talk about the difference between important tasks and urgent tasks, okay? So important tasks are those that are irreplaceable and absolutely must-dos in the starting, running and scaling of your business. These are important things, and these should never be kind of whisked away and put on to next week or the week after. These are things that, you have to lock in. Urgent tasks are simply those with some kind of time limit. Like I said, I keep all important tasks on my list, and it depends if they're urgent or not urgent. Obviously, if a task is important and urgent, that is something I'm doing ASAP. key, okay? But if it's something that is important but not urgent, these are things that I can defer to later in the week, later in the month, or whenever you feel like you're going to get around to doing it. If a task is just straight up not important, I either delegate it or I eliminate it. Just ask yourself, for every task on your to-do list, is it vital to the starting, running, and scaling of your business? If the answer is no, get rid of it. It does not need to be there distracting you, making you feel bad about yourself. And here's one last quick tip for you. I know that for neurodiverse people, it can be really hard at times to say no. It can be really, really hard because we have big hearts. We want everyone to be happy. We want to people please at times. And I'm putting my hand up to that because I know that I have been like that in the past. But what I did is I created personal policies. And you might want to go and watch the episode/video where I talk about friendships and boundaries, all those kinds of things when you have a handmade business, because these things are really important, right? So I'll whack it up on screen what the thumbnail looks like so you can go and watch/listen to that. But one thing that I will say is personal policies are just as important as your business ones. Right. And every single business should have a refund policy, a T's and C's, privacy policies. And these policies are non-negotiable rules, if you like, that you will abide to. So creating personal policies is a really good way of being like, you know what? Sorry, Aunt Julie, I know that you've asked me to make cupcakes for your bake sale, but it's my personal policy not to move my week around once I'm halfway through it. Or sorry, Julie, I am not able to come to your garage sale because I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. And it's my personal policy for if I'm feeling exhausted, I'm not going to accept any new things. I know it sounds like you're being a hard ass, but at the end of the day, if this is what you need to feel level and to feel okay, then it's the ultimate act of self-care, right? Now let's look at Sam and Lydia, okay? They both have ADHD, but Sam has always used it as a reason for her not to do the things that she wants to do. It's a heavy suitcase full of crap that she carries around with her all the damn time. She thinks things like, I can't be super organized, there's no point even trying, business feels too corporate to me, I don't understand, how can I actually do this when my brain is just not doing what it's supposed to do? Marketing myself is so damn hard. I can't ever stick with one thing, and I know I should niche down, but it's pointless, I can't do it. So she kind of half-asses her business for the longest amount of time and then ends up giving up because she's beating herself up, it's not feeling good at this point, and she just never really pursues it. Lydia, on the other hand, also carries around that heavy feeling, that suitcase of crap. She has ADHD, but she plays to her strengths. She knows that her superpowers are creativity, problem solving, and locking in. You know, when she's locked in, she's locked in. She knows that creating products, solving day-to-day issues, and concentrating on exciting projects are not a problem for her. But when it comes to marketing and getting distracted by shiny objects, that's when she knows that her ADHD sabotages show up. But she puts personal policies and systems in place for her to counteract this, and she plans her weeks in advance, putting the uncomfortable, important, urgent things first. All right, now let's move on to the homework chapter of this video. So here is your homework. Number 1 is to find your ADHD gifts. Number 2 is to change how you manage your business and delegate or eliminate tasks or things that are never going to vibe with you. Number 3 is try, test, and measure. There's no point doing one of these tips that I've said throughout this entire thing if you try it and it doesn't work for you. You need to make sure to test these things out for a little bit. And if it's not working for you, tweak it, change it, try something different. Number 4 is to utilize technology. There are so many tools and things that can help you depending on what your sabotages are. So for example, for me, it's AI organizers. I love kind of getting AI to organize my week for me. And then I go in and just kind of move things about, right? The other thing I love love is loop earplugs or Apple AirPods, where you can kind of shut the world out, get rid of distractions, play some like classical music, some ocean waves or something like that, and really help you to lock in. Number 5 is keep an ADHD journal for a week so you start to see what weekly, what daily challenges, sabotages, traits and things are coming up for you. This means that you can preemptively strike because you know what's going on a weekly basis. Number 6 is to make it romantic, get the vibe right. Like I said, you want to make sure that you're helping yourself make the activities seem more attractive when you do have a case of the can't help it's. And the last one, number 7, is to keep a list of people that you admire with ADHD, because honestly, if these people can succeed, then so can you. Also, I would love it if you would like this video because it helps people see it more, and subscribe to my channel because I'm dropping mega value like this every single week. But for now, my loves, I shall catch you all in the next video. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Be a Handmade Boss. And if you're eager to boost your Etsy sales within just 7 days, then be sure to join my most popular free training at handmadebosses.com/conversion. You can also find the link in the show notes as well. Keep an eye out for our next episode where we'll be continuing our journey towards handmade business success together. And until then, keep crafting and stay inspired because the world really does need those special creations that only you can make.